Right, okay, what are we going to talk about?
You have all those memories then.
Jürgen Klinsmann was signed to save Spurs.
And they were very nice emotions.
He's left his mark in the minds of the Tottenham fans.
If you were telephone, he said, we got signed Klinsmann. I said, what?
Trust me, he didn't disappoint. The person that made things happen.
Well, they joke about the diving. That one is perfectly legitimate.
He was an amazing ambassador for the Premier League.
We just didn't have the luck on the night with the penalties.
So mad, I guess, and sad that we didn't win, because we felt we could really win it. You know, we felt if we could just get through the Germans and beat them, you know, we would be in the final, obviously, but we could beat Argentina.
Still very quick.
Still upset.
English football had been in the doldrums, really. Tendencies were down, Hillsborough had happened, Heysel had happened. The Premier League had not happened, it was before that, and English football needed a reboot. And it came in 1990. Suddenly, a team that started pretty poorly at that World Cup clicked. Gaza emerged, Gary Lineker was on fire up front, and the whole nation suddenly got excited about this team that got to the semi-finals. Of course, we came up against West Germany and Jürgen Klinsmann, and if anyone's going to pop your bubble, it's going to be Jürgen Klinsmann. And it happened on penalties.
Germany against England, always great, and especially when we think back to the penalties. We have always this love and hate relationship to England, and I hope it will keep on for the next couple of centuries. Jürgen Klinsmann was the real inspiration for that team. He had an incredible game against the Dutch, against the Netherlands. This was one of the key matches to win the World Cup afterwards, and he was an extraordinary striker, and he scored goals like hell. Everything looks so floating because he had this style of running, and his blonde hair were waving, you know. He had something special, and it showed.
Nice to be at Wembley for the wrong reason.
As often with Tottenham, there's highs and lows, and this was a time of lows. They'd had this points deduction for something that happened under a previous regime. They hadn't played well the previous season. They finished down the table, but crowds weren't great. You know, 20,000, 17,000 for a couple of home games. Spurs at the time were really worried about what would happen to them. And at the end, they did successfully appeal the points deduction. But they needed something on the pitch just to rejuvenate and re-galvanise supporters.
Can we lower down, sitting up straight? How do you want me sitting? The early 90s were a strange time for us. We were mainly more on the business papers than we were on the sports pages, because it was very much the club was going into bankruptcy, we were struggling. Success that we were looking for was not really there. Coming into the 94-95 season, it was strange because suddenly the club were being charged by the FA, 12-point deduction, 600,000 fine, and a ban from the FA Cup, which is outrageous.
Well, it was going to be a very difficult season. We still didn't recover from the season before. We were doing very well until Teddy Sheringham was injured, and in a lot of ways we played with only one striker. So striker was our priority.
My idea was that we need to boost the morale of the club with 12 points deducted. And Ozzy, being Argentinian, I said, you must know Maradona. He said, of course I know him, yeah, of course. I said, ask him to come to the club.
I knew anyway that Diego was available because he just left Italy.
He says, well, he won't come here. I said, well, ask him. He won't know unless you ask him. He says, would you employ him? I said, yes.
It was definitely a possibility. And in fact, I said no, because I was very close with Diego and I knew very well how bad he was at the time in terms of his personal life. As a player, definitely the worst part of his life.
There were a few weeks going past whereby all the talk was about Diego Maradona coming to Spurs. I think we all thought that was going to happen. And I think there's a lot of excitement around the club that it would happen. Tottenham have been trailblazers in bringing in overseas players. Of course, bringing in Ozzy and Ricky Villa after they've won the World Cup for Argentina. For Romania, Ili Dumitrescu and Jica Popescu had fantastic World Cup, and on the back of that, obviously, we signed them. Those two coming in, very much strengthened our squad, very much what we were looking for.
Well, they were big names, but they weren't global superstars. I don't think everyone was convinced they were going to be the signings that would transform Tottenham. It's obvious that Tottenham needed to do something more.
It was quite an amazing set of circumstances. I was with my family on my boat parked in Monaco, and suddenly I get a call from this agent. He said, "Are you Alan Sugar?" I said, "Yes, I am, yeah." He said, "I'm the agent of Jürgen Klinsmann." So I thought this was a wind-up, really. As the Spurs fans would say, "You don't know anything about football, Sugar." But even I knew Jürgen Klinsmann was.
I never really planned things ahead of time. I was in a situation, I came from the '94 World Cup, scored there 5 goals, and AS Monaco said they agreed, Arsene Wenger agreed, because he was my coach there, that if I bring in a club and I want to move on after 2 years with AS Monaco, that would be fine.
Klinsmann had been relatively successful in the World Cup that had just been over. I said, "What do you want to say us for? We've got 12 points deducted. We've been banned from the FA Cup, so why would he want to come and see me?" He said, "Well, he wants to play in the Premier League." He said, "Well, where are you?" I said, "Well, I'm actually in Monaco." He said, "Well, so are we." He said, "I'm looking out of the apartment and I think we can see your boat. It's a blue boat." I said, "That's right." He said, "Well, we'll be there in 5 minutes." So I said, "Well, go on then, come down." They came down, to the surprise of my family that were on board, and a friend of mine was on board. We started talking and I couldn't believe my luck.
Alan Sugar was suddenly in Monte Carlo on his yacht and gave me a call and asked if we can have a cappuccino maybe on his boat, and the whole thing unfolded in a few couple of hours. I gave Arsene a call and said, "Listen, there's the owner of Tottenham Hotspur is just right here, and I would like to do a deal."
To me, it was like a no-brainer. I mean, can you imagine? I was thinking to myself, can you imagine if we announced that Jürgen Klinsmann was going to play for Tottenham? So I get in a tender, which is a small boat, go up into the offices of Monaco, and sitting there was the boss of Monaco, president, and Arsene Wenger, right? He must be just about to leave. We did a negotiation and all that stuff, and they said, "Yeah, okay, you can have him, £2 million." And I thought, this is ridiculous, right? So I phoned Ozzy, and he said, "Yeah." I said, "Ozzy, I've got the opportunity of signing Jürgen Klinsmann."
I went to Brazil to talk with the Central Football Brazilian national team. And when I was there, I hear the news that Sugar telephoned me and said, "We have signed Klinsmann." I said, "What?" So I was incredibly surprised, of course. It was not in my radar, say, because I never thought that we would be able to buy Jürgen, because Jürgen, I mean, he will have many options. And so I was very surprised, a very, very happy surprise.
Normally you hear a little bit from whether you're the manager or the chairman, but there was very little about it. It was all a very covert operation taking place.
The World Cup was over. It was the end of July. Teams were back in pre-season training, but I'd actually booked to go on holiday. 3 small children in the car. We were driving down to Devon.
I get on the phone to Vic Wakelin. Now, Vic Wakelin was the director of sports at Sky at the time.
My wife was just looking at the house when the phone rang. And normally when Alan Sugar phoned up at that time, it was because he had wanted to moan about something that he thought we'd done wrong.
"Vic, I got a coup for you. Just about to sign Jürgen Klinsmann." He goes, "You're joking." I said, "I'm not joking, mate." I said, "And what I need you to do is to get a camera down here at Monaco Harbour.
It's your scoop if you want it."
Because as I walk out, I'm going to walk to the edge of the water with Klinsmann. I'm going to grab his hand, and you're going to take the picture of it. And that means he's going to be stuffed with not being able to back out, right?
"You need to be on my yacht in Monaco in an hour and a half." I thought it was going to be at the training ground anyway, so you think, Monaco, how am I going to get a camera crew there? I've got the kids in the car, so get the kids out of the car. So we're going on holiday later, not sure when. And then we chased around to try and find a freelance crew that could get to Alan Sugar's yacht in Monaco.
So we walked down the stairs, come out the door, and bless him, Vic had laid on these people, and there's a crew of cameras there, and Klinsmann's gone, what's happening? So, I don't know, you know, things leak out, you know, they leak out, who knows, you know what it's like in football.
The biggest scoop I think Sky News Sport had for, well, a long, long time.
So he shook my hand and he's still like bemused.
I had 2 other offers at that time from Spain and also from Italy. Going back to Italy, I did already Italy with Inter Milan, so I thought, you know, I need to do something new. Spurs meant London, London, an exciting city, and that's how we made the decision, my wife and I. And it was always a little bit in my DNA that I always wanted to move to different places, see, learn, and experience different people. Also taking some risks, you know, obviously, because you never know if it turns out, you know, perfectly or not perfectly.
Jürgen was always somebody who was for adventure, a guy who was traveling everywhere. He was somebody with a backpack, flight to Los Angeles, and then he was not planning nothing. Maybe he was sleeping in a tent, maybe he was sleeping in a 5-star hotel, I really don't know. But Jürgen was like this. The players, they had a Ferrari or Audi or Mercedes, he had a Volkswagen. He was different.
Alan, could you walk together? Could you walk together?
I took him to the Tower of London hotel, very nice hotel there, and suddenly it was 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and he said, Ossie, he said, I have not been, I don't have any training for 3 or 4 days, so I really need to have a training. Can I have training right now? I said, well, yes, of course, and it was him and me only in training. Luckily enough for me, I just finished playing, so that means I was able to kick the ball properly and so on. So we have a very good one-to-one training. Immediately you can see the quality of the player. Yeah.
He is then 100% behind this move. It's not only football. He likes to see the tradition from the country. I don't know what he was doing in London, but in Italy, he was prepared in the language. He was using a teacher 6 months before in Germany. Then he come to Italy. He make immediately his interview in the Italian language. Then he find his Italian friends to show him maybe different places.
You can see that he was enjoying, as soon as he arrived in London, he was enjoying London. He was asking questions about kind of tourist questions, you want to put it like that. What is this, what is that, and so on. He was very, very impressed. It was not like a normal players. Normal players are interested in certain other things and so on, maybe asking for a nightclub or things like that. No, no way.
The signing of Jürgen Klinsmann is seen by expectant supporters as the turning point in Tottenham's fortunes.
People said he was a bit of a diver.
I think people thought, oh, don't want another diver. That's not what we do in England. It seemed to be the sentiment at the time. True or false, but that's what the sentiment seemed to be. I think there was one newspaper journalist who wrote a story about why I dislike or why I hate Jürgen Klinsmann.
I remember saying in the World Cup 1990, in the quarterfinal against Czech Republic, we get a penalty. It was a penalty, but he make more than one penalty. For his diving, he liked to have a second penalty. Then he make a Hollywood smile or move or something like this, and this is Jürgen. It's a little bit drama.
Jürgen explained that when he signed in Italy, unfortunately, you had to go down to get a free kick. It's all different leagues. I remember the senior players saying, look, Jürgen, you can't sort of get away with that here, and he adapted straight away, and that was a good thing about Jürgen. Wherever he played, he adapted. But also as well, I think he got a little bit of a bad rap because he was that mobile and athletic and light on his feet that he would glide past players and he would get brought down. I think sometimes it went against him because everyone said about the diving. He didn't get the free kicks really he deserved at times. Everybody had heard about it. Everyone was making comments about it. Everyone was talking about it. It was very negative. And that had a big effect on Jürgen as he was coming to the country. We had discussions about it, and he said, look, I've never cheated in my life.
That was a very, very English thing with the press and so on. It was not in any other country. For example, I never heard that in Argentina. Or you go to France or Germany, oh, he was that. No, not at all. So it was something connected with the England, Germany. He was made a much, much bigger thing of what actually was, yes. Basically was English paper trying to find something. So how can we? Because it was very difficult to try to find something wrong about Jürgen.
We think a very brave move to go to England and go to Tottenham and facing all these things, what he faced then at the end in England. But I know that everybody was talking him about a diver, but he was no diver. When I remember in Stuttgart and even later when he played for Bayern, he was not that way. He was not famous for that.
The German international, already tagged dive bomber by the British media, had the perfect opening gambit.
I just wanted to ask if there's any diving school in London.
That joke kind of came as an advice from a friend of mine that said, you always have to add something to when you get provoked by the English. It's their humor. You got to learn that. So that was a kind of plan.
In the end, we said, look, the culture in this country, if you come out firing from the hip saying, how dare you do this, have a go back, they'll come back fighting again. I said, the best thing over here is if you can be seen to be laughing at yourself.
We'd obviously been well briefed about his reputation, and he disarmed everybody, and that completely changed the atmosphere.
He said, well, why not for his first big interview that he has to do, why don't we hire one of those old diving suits, with the massive, the face opens, the big massive metal thing. Couldn't get one anywhere. We thought it'd be brilliant. Imagine if everyone's waiting for him to walk in, and he comes walking in like this metal diving suit. We just thought that'd be fantastic.
Jürgen, there's a lot of rivalry between Germany and England, football-wise. Do you expect then, when you go to away grounds, that you maybe target higher away?
I never had problems with fans, supporters, not even from the other teams. What you have to do is just to do your job in a very honest and clear way.
My challenge is to win something. That's the reason why I came over here, because Mr. Sugar was very clear in the first conversation we had. He said he wants to win the championship, even with 6 points less. For going back to the subject of money, I made already enough money that I can live after my career as a soccer player really easily. So that's not the point anymore.
Over here, Jürgen.
Obviously, the signing of Jürgen and Dimitrescu has been a great boost to the situation, and it's what fans deserve, I suppose, as they've been suffering quite a lot in the last year or so. From a pretty selfish point of view also, it's my character to really fight fire with fire.
The arrival of Klinsmann and Ili Dumitrescu has produced a surge in season ticket sales. Every home game is now a sellout, and the club's souvenir shops are struggling to cope with demand.
We've sold absolutely hundreds of things. We're selling everything. The most popular item of all is, of course, the Klinsmann shirts. We've just found out his number's number 18 now, and people are having that on their shirts now.
Everybody wants to talk to you. Everybody wants your autograph. How are you coping with this fantastic arrival in England?
I'm very happy how friendly everybody is to me, and I just came over and I didn't expect anything. I just said I try to make a new experience, and I'm very glad how they welcomed me, everybody. But I think we shouldn't forget that it's a team sport.
To Spurs fans, Jürgen Klinsmann is their World Cup star who can walk on water. But the German international had to make do with a leisurely stroll on the school playing fields next door to the team hotel on the morning of a dramatic Premiership debut. Klinsmann may have been a long way from the more spectacular sidewalks on the seafront of Monaco, but he was made to feel at home in some small way. The road named after the German town, twinned with Sheffield, was just across the way. Getting back to the hotel, though, proved a little more hazardous, but Klinsmann led from the front, the first hurdle of the day successfully overcome. 1:30, an hour and a half to go till kick-off, and Klinsmania had arrived at Hillsborough. The man all the travelling fans had waited to see was given a rapturous welcome. How much are you looking forward to seeing Jürgen play this afternoon?
Great amount. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. He'll do the business for us this season. Making 6 points up for us and do the job.
I think he'll do very well in the league. I think plenty of goals will be scored, and hope we do well. It's an exciting time with Tottenham, but just hope we get it together in the end.
Can't wait. Look, brilliant in the World Cup. Today, just going to do the business.
And what's the Sheffield Wednesday view of him playing for Spurs?
Well, just hoping he don't dive.
The fans at Sheffield Wednesday welcomed me at the stadium with signs 5.7, 5.8. You know, when we drove up with the bus, and my teammates, they freaked out. They were laughing like crazy.
We were playing pre-season games, and every time he got bundled over or went down, they were holding up scorecards in the crowd. You know, it was like, excuse me? We spoke about it, how best to deal with it.
Splendid atmosphere at Hillsborough, absolute sellout, and everybody looking at Tottenham's Jürgen Klinsmann, the German making his debut. Klinsmann's free, and he's marked his debut with a goal! Jürgen Klinsmann does it! Well, they joke about the diving. That one is perfectly legitimate.
I mean, I think the first goal, if you come to a new club, to a new championship, it means a lot to you personally. The other chaps that already told me before the game, I said, when you score the first goal, we're gonna make the dive. I mean, it makes you feeling kind of proud, you know, playing for these guys.
Teddy Sheringham said, well, you know what? Why don't we do that? You know, you score your first goal today and we're all gonna do a dive. So it was Teddy Sheringham's idea.
And we all did the dive. I think I dived over quite a few people. The rubbish dive.
Jürgen was always like this. He was celebrating the same his goals in Stuttgart, like in the national team, a little bit more emotional maybe than myself. I don't know why he made the diver, but I think this make him more famous than the goals in England.
I was inspired, to be perfectly honest. Everybody was kind of against him because of diving and so on. Now everybody was with him. I mean, this guy is wonderful. When you are saying somebody's diving, basically you are saying that it's cheating for anybody. It's a big, big insult, to be perfectly honest. So it's very, very interesting in the way that he kicked it away completely, and nobody talk about that anymore.
He knew what media scrutiny was like. He knew how to handle it, and he handled it superbly.
Teddy Sheringham, his son Charlie, a week later asked him, at that time he was little, he asked his dad again and said, can you tell Jürgen, you know, if he scores another one, you know, got to do the dive, because we kids all do the dive right now in the parks when we play Sunday. So it happened to be a home game against Everton, and happened to be a bicycle kick, and then the whole team was running over to me. And for me, it was huge lessons that the English people gave me in terms of don't take yourself too seriously. You know, don't be offended if we make a joke about you or whatever. It has to do with the past or with the present. Doesn't really matter. People in England taught me a lot of things.
He was very sharp, he was very quick, he was very skillful, kicking the ball, passing the ball, hitting the ball, everything was super, super. The main thing, I would say, his intelligence. He was very, very intelligent. He knew exactly where to go, tactically he was very, very well aware and so on. And at the end, you have to put in, like every super, super player, character. A wonderful character, a winner.
Jürgen was a person that made things happen. He was a total role model to all of our young academy players. He trained like he was playing, you know, a Champions League final.
People wanted to go and watch him, to boo him, to cheer him, just to be amazed and excited.
I always remember the buzz around the training ground was just incredible. When you sign someone like that, a world-class player who's won the World Cup, been there, seen it, done it, and you just can't wait to see him in training. Trust me, he didn't disappoint. He was the ultimate professional. To say in your career that you played with the likes of Jürgen Klinsmann and Paul Gascoigne is incredible, really.
He was an amazing ambassador for the Premier League. Every single club we went to in that year, they were packed out to come and see Jürgen Klinsmann play. And I remember Manchester United, Martin Edwards coming to me while I was there saying, do me a favour, Alan, can you get me one of his shirts to sign for our museum? I said, certainly. That was it, that was Klinsmann.
Very, very positive memories, obviously, to understand how massive this club is. Thanks God we made that decision, because it's been such an exciting time when I was permitted to play for Spurs.